Welcome back to another episode of the Brooklynite TV podcast, where we bring you the latest and most compelling issues from our vibrant borough of Brooklyn and beyond. I'm your host, Frank, and today we have a story of resilience, reform, and renewal right here in the heart of New York City. We're diving into the significant changes surrounding the marijuana industry in the city, a story of how thousands of unlicensed shops took advantage of a legal gray area, and how after a prolonged battle, the city's finally seeing some real results from a renewed crackdown. So let's get into it. Again, as I say, New York City has always been a place of innovation and transformation, but the legal marijuana market has faced unique challenges since its implementation. Soon after recreational marijuana was legalized in 2021, the city was expected to ride the wave of a new industry. Instead, what unfolded was a chaotic scene of unlicensed shops sprouting up like the weed everywhere across the city. Now imagine this. You're walking through the streets of Brooklyn and Manhattan, and everywhere you look there's an unlicensed marijuana shop. They were so pervasive that it became part of the urban landscape. These shops were operating without the necessary licenses, permits, evading taxes, and ignoring state regulations. For a while, it seemed like the Wild West. The city's power to regulate and enforce the law was completely outmatched. Initially, when New York legalized marijuana, the state's approach was not focused on recriminalizing the drug. The state's Office of Cannabis Management were the ones responsible for overseeing compliance, but they left local law enforcement with limited power. The idea was to make a fresh start, but the implementation was far from smooth. Bureaucratic delays, stringent eligibility requirements for licenses, and a maze of red tape meant that legal dispensaries struggled to open their doors. Governor Kathy Hochul herself called the rollout a disaster, and she wasn't alone in her frustration. With only around 150 licensed dispensaries statewide, compared to approximately 1,200 in California, the legal market was lagging behind. The initial lack of enforcement created a free-for-all. These illegal shops didn't have to adhere to any regulations, which gave them an unfair edge over those trying to operate within the law. The enforcement issues were compounded by the fact that the legal market was not yet fully operational. Many of those illegal shops were not just skirting regulations, they were also impacting the success of legal dispensaries who just started. Licensed stores had to navigate not only through the red tape complexities of new regulations, but also the direct competition from these unregulated smoke shops. But then in April of this year, the city received a crucial tool in its fight against these illegal shops. New state regulations were introduced, granting local authorities the power to take more divisive actions. This was a game changer. For the first time, local officials could padlock the doors of these illegal shops. The New York City Sheriff's Office was given the authority to conduct inspections without needing a court order. This meant that they could swiftly raid these stores and seize their products, and that's what they did. The crackdown was not just a promise, it became a reality. Since the new regulations were put into place, New York City shut down around 1,000 of these illegal marijuana shops. This was a significant step towards restoring law and order and ensuring that only licensed, regulated businesses are operating in our city. This newfound enforcement power has had a profound impact. The city's efforts have not only managed to close down these illegal operations, but have also started to bring law and order to what was previously a very chaotic situation. The results are already visible. Licensed dispensaries, like the Cannabis Place in Queens, have reported a 40% increase in business. The progress has been impressive, but it hasn't been without its challenges. Some illegal shops have managed to defend themselves against these fines by arguing procedural issues or citing faulty evidence. Around 100 shops have successfully contested their fines, but many of these businesses have still closed due to the broader impact of the enforcement actions. In addition, legal battles have emerged. A lawsuit was filed arguing that enforcement practices deny due process to the business being shut down. While the lawsuit has yet to achieve a favorable ruling, it highlights the ongoing complexities that still arise of balancing illegal enforcement with fair and legal practices. So despite these legal hurdles, the city's commitment to reform remains strong. The Sheriff's Office has issued violations totaling over $57 million since April, although it's unclear how much of this has been collected. The message is clear. Illegal cannabis operations will and are going to be held accountable. The administration, led by Mayor Eric Adams, has been vocal about this stance. City Hall has deployed 15 teams of deputies and NYPD officers daily to ensure these new regulations are being followed. The commitment is evident, and the results are beginning to speak volumes for themselves. New York City's efforts to tackle the proliferation of illegal marijuana shops are a testament to the power of persistence and proactive enforcement. The turnaround has been significant, and while there's still work to be done, the city's on the right path. This situation serves as a valuable lesson for cities facing similar challenges. It demonstrates that with the right tools and a dedicated approach, even the most complex issues can be addressed. It's worth noting that New York City's crackdown is more than just a story of enforcement. It's a story of resilience, reform, and the enduring spirit of a city determined to make things right. Now, as we look ahead, it's clear that New York City's approach to managing the marijuana industry will continue to evolve. The recent crackdown on illegal shops represents a critical step forward towards restoring order and ensuring that the legal market can thrive. Now, while challenges remain, the city's proactive stance offers a model for other jurisdictions grappling with these same issues. In conclusion, New York City's decisive actions against illegal marijuana shops marks a significant turning point in the regulatory landscape. The closure of numerous unlicensed businesses and the substantial fines that were imposed reflects a concerted effort to address a pressing issue and reshape the city's cannabis market. Now, as the city moves forward, the lessons learned from this crackdown will undoubtedly inform future regulatory strategies and set a precedence for managing emerging industries with both determination and fairness. Thank you for joining me today on this episode of the Brooklynite TV podcast. We hope you found this discussion informative and insightful. Be sure to subscribe to our podcast for more updates and stories from the heart of Brooklyn and beyond. Until next time, keep the pulse of Brooklyn alive and stay tuned for our next episode. Thank you again for tuning in to this episode of the Brooklynite TV podcast. If you have any thoughts or comments, reach out to us on social media or through our website. Until next time, keep the spirit alive. And hey, if you're into that sort of thing, it's 420 somewhere. Stay safe and be careful, everyone.